Hello, I'm Bruce Burke. Welcome to the first episode of Hashtag Pay Interviews. And I've got with me a local attorney and very helpful guy to the startups, Brent Britton. Brent is an attorney that helps startups get started and works in IP and blockchain law. And Brent, rather than me introduce you and not knowing much about you, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Sure, absolutely, Bruce. I appreciate very much the opportunity to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Brent Britton. I'm the founder and chairman of a law firm known as CoreX Legal. We have offices at the moment in Tampa and San Francisco, and we represent startup technology companies and really companies of all sizes. We provide a full-service slate of legal services. But we do enjoy working for technology companies. We're former software engineers and computer scientists ourselves, so we kind of get the jokes and we know the acronyms and understand what you're going through when you're doing a software company. So we look at soup to exit, soup to nuts, cradle to exit representation of the company. We can do your formation, your capital transactions, your intellectual property, and all the other contracts and all the things. So if you need a thing, you give us a call. We're happy to help you out.
So as this is the first episode of Hashtag Pay Interviews, we're going to separate the interviews into different segments. In this segment, we're calling it One of One to focus on the individuality of the people that I'm interviewing, right? Brent is a very unique individual. He's one of a kind. He's, just in what he just told you, that should be plainly obvious. But I think he refers to himself on LinkedIn as the tattooed attorney or the tattooed lawyer. I'm not sure. Full sleeves, ladies and gentlemen. San Francisco cred like nobody else here in Tampa Bay.
Girl from Ipanema, really.
So I'm going to do to Kevin Rose. You're probably familiar with him from back in the day, the screensavers guy and Foundation and Milk and et cetera, right? So how did you get started? How did you get into this? How did Brent get to be Brent Britton?
So I was a Dungeons and Dragons playing little nerd in high school, and I was a sort of math geek. Although I went to a small enough high school that you couldn't just belong to one clique. You had to do double duty. Like you had to be like a stoner and a jock, or like a geek and a smoker, right? Like you couldn't just be in one clique. So anyway, but one of the cliques that I was a geek. I went to undergrad for the University of Maine and majored in computer science, minor in finance. And then I went to MIT for grad school. I got into the media laboratory at MIT, and that was that was a trip. And so I was really getting deep into computer science. I earned my master's degree from MIT. And unfortunately, about this time, 89, 90, 91, software patents were becoming a thing that engineers began talking about because it became legal. The Supreme Court decision made it legal to patent software. And I saw a lot of engineers getting rather frazzled on one side of the conversation, and I saw a lot of lawyers and, frankly, government agents and even police officers getting a little confused on the other side of the conversation about what is software and should it be ownable and should it be patentable and all these crazy things. Of course, the internet was starting to happen. So I went to law school because I figured that there was a lot of stuff about how the country runs that was really composed of a rule set, a rule base, that I didn't know how to hack because, as I say, I was a math geek, and I could hack pretty much any other thing, but I didn't know enough about civics, frankly, to figure out how to hack the law. And that seemed interesting to me because the law was the rule base that was governing my life and my behavior. And so I went to law school. I graduated in 1994, and by the time I left law school, the web had begun to happen. And it was clear that there were business people and there were technology people, and they wanted to be together. They wanted to invest in each other and contribute to each other and all the things. There was a lot of people who could speak both languages, and by then I was pretty capable of that. I had a foot in both camps. So I went to Silicon Valley in the 90s and really lit it up, quite frankly. I had a firm of my own in San Francisco in late 1990s called Britton, Silverman, and Cervantes. And we were a dot-com hotshot. I got to tell you, we really hit it right in terms of timing. We represent Craigslist, we represented LinkedIn, we represented OpenTable. We had a number of cool clients who were just getting started back then, in the 90s. And long story short, I did some work in San Francisco. I did some work in New York City. I ended up in Tampa almost 20 years ago. I came to Tampa in 2004. Wonderful place to be. Huge and exciting startup community. A lot of technology people. I'm fortunate that I've been one of the voices in the chorus here in Tampa that has been singing very loudly to try to pray the technology venture sector into existence over the past 20 years here in Tampa. And I'm very pleased that all of the people involved in that process have succeeded, because Tampa is now a real hotbed for tech startups. Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, really wonderful place to come, be, live, run your company, hire people. I'm here now at a firm called CoreX Legal, as I say, that's devoted to working with everybody in this space. So that's pretty much the nutshell, Bruce, of how I ended up here today.
Okay. And so in CoreX, you kind of just briefly touched on, all legal. Do you have any things that you focus on specifically? And
Absolutely. Yeah. So, look, if you're a smart kid with a good idea on the back of a napkin, we will talk to you. We'll find a way to represent you. We do everything from formation, founder agreements, governance documents for the company, bylaws and articles and things like that. Capital transactions, so your seed round, your pre-seed round, your super seed round, your Series A, B, C, D, whatever. We do all of those. Full suite of intellectual property, so patents, trademarks, copyright registration if you need it, plus obviously the strategy involved in deciding whether you should keep it a secret or get a patent and all the other things. All the commercial transactions associated with running a company, so customer agreements, vendor agreements, terms of service, privacy policies, software licenses, all the things, that you need, all the contracts, employment stuff, right? So sure, independent contractor agreements, employment agreements, but also, goodness forbid you get somebody who's threatening to sue you for sexual harassment or hostile workplace or something like that. We can step in and help try to settle that kind of case. Here's the things we don't do, Bruce. We don't do immigration, although we have great contacts in the space. So if you need to get somebody over from India or wherever, we can refer you to somebody who's a black belt in that area. And we don't really do a lot of bankruptcy, quite frankly. So if again, God forbid that happens, we got people who we can send you to make sure you're well treated. But for the most part, all the cool stuff that you do, up to and including M&A, we do a ton of sell-side M&A work. And our goal at CoreX Legal is really to prepare you for that exit. So the minute you come in the door, we are looking at what the due diligence and the process is going to look like when somebody is buying you. We know what they're going to be looking for. We know the documents they're going to want to see. We know, everything about the due diligence that they're going to want to see. So from the minute you come in the door at CoreX Legal, we are preparing you for that process.
Okay, and I see you're in the piano room of the Britton mansion there, and I've seen you a couple of times perform on. You throw some videos up every once in a while on Facebook and pound out some tunes. Very, very good, I might add. How long have you been playing the piano?
Oh, that's very kind. Bruce, I have been playing the piano since I could reach the keyboard. Just one of those things that was gifted to me from a very early age. I did very little to deserve it, quite frankly. I could just play, which tells you something about maybe there's something going on in the world that we don't understand and can't see, but who knows? But I did take lessons. I took formal lessons about my senior year in high school for about 6 months, just because I had some fingering problems I couldn't solve. But for the most part, I'm self-taught. And the reason I post on Facebook is because if y'all friend me up on Facebook, which you're welcome to do, I like everybody else. I mean, Facebook is curated. You put your best foot forward. You take 10 pictures and you pick the one everybody likes, and then you post that one. I'm guilty of that. Just to get up. But the piano videos for me that I post on Facebook are more of a opportunity to present myself authentically. I might have had a beverage or two before I turn on the video camera to post a video, and God knows there's shot through with mistakes and errors and sometimes even pregnant pauses where I'm trying to figure out what the heck comes next. And that's my way of letting, I don't know, just sort of putting my humanity out there and saying, I love making music. Music is a big prayer. It's a big poem. It's a big way to connect with something greater, even if only in our heads. And my world is full. If there's one person out there who sits and closes their eyes and listens to a song that I might play, and their smile becomes a little brighter, that's all I need. Or they laugh at me and make fun of the stupidity and the mistakes. That's also good too. I'll take a smile on other people's face in any form. So yeah, that's the idea there. But I love it, Bruce. And I got to tell you, as somebody who works really hard, I mean, even at my age, and I'm in my mid-50s, I still log well over 40 hours a week at work. I'm running my own law firm, and there's just a lot of work to do. I'm thankful for it. Make no mistake. I pay the bills, so that's where it comes from. But every now and then, you've got to be impressed, man. You've got to just turn away and do something that feeds your soul, such as it is, as opposed to just constantly being a productive capitalist all day long. So that's the piano for me.
So I see you've got some waveforms framed up behind your piano. Is that any particular song, or does that have any particular meaning, or is it just to kind of go along with the musical motif?
It is, as a matter of fact. That is an amplitude spectrum of the first movement of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony.
Okay.
So amplitude meaning volume. So what you have on that spectrum, starting from the upper left corner, left to right, is ba 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 ba. You can see that sort of triangle. It's sort of diminishing, and then the second one, ba 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 ba. That's the second triangle diminishing, and then there's that slow build up to the next crescendo. So.
Nice. And so is that your theme? Is that your walk on music? Is that if Brent Britton was a wrestler? I don't know. Is that ominous, or is that?
Anything in C minor is going to be a little dramatic. Okay, so
dramatic. That's a better word for it. So I wanted to kind of do an aside here, a sidebar, if you will, barrister, to give people kind of the backstory of how Brent and I happen to kind of be here today.
Sure.
I was sitting at home post-pandemic feeling miserable about everything that was miserable then, right? And trying to figure out what I was going to do next now that the world was starting to open back up again. And serendipitously, one day, Brent decided to send me an instant message and said, hey, you're really good at picking out good news stories and posting them. And you always seem to like to pick out the right story.
Well, not only were you good at picking the right stories, Bruce, but your commentary was more than just, hey, everybody, check out this article. They make a nice point. There was some cogent analysis, even, I dare say, synopsis of the article in question. And that's what caught my attention was, wow, this guy's not only posting stuff, he's actually thinking about it and commenting on it in a way that makes sense.
And I try and make the stuff I'm posting part of the commentary itself, too, right? I'm picking out specific articles that have a specific sentiment that moves forward. So Brent mentioned that to me, and he's like, you got a gift. And so I started out and I went and designed something real quick. I think it was Converge Media, threw up a logo real quick, and I think I sent it to you and talked to you about it a little bit, right? And then I found out that Converge Media was already taken, right? I did a little due diligence after that. And so I went back and I resuscitated the pay brand that I had built prior to the pandemic, and so that's where we are here today, and that's why Brent is one of one and the first one. Maybe we should NFT this episode. I'm not real sure.
Let's make
and make it a real one of one, right? Yeah, let's get tokenized. I really have the thought about tokenizing every video that I'm doing. I really think that's a thing, right?
Why not? Absolutely. Yeah, these are collectibles. We are a collectible, Bruce Burke.
I am a digital collectible. We are no longer tokens. We are digital collectibles. Don't say crypto. The word is don't say crypto on the street.
No. But look, it's the BB show, right? Brent Britton, Bruce Burke. All
I'm
right?
BB3, as you saw this morning. I'm BB3.
B stands for Bitcoin. I'm just saying. Just throwing that out.
I almost adopted the B with the line through it as part of my logo, but I'm a contrarian. You know what I'm saying? Especially now, right? But it was interesting the other day, and I wanted to talk to you about some current topics as well. Last weekend, last Friday specifically, when we had
Silicon Valley Bank went under. I remember that.
Oh my God! And you posted, "Oh my God, no, not SVB," right? And so you having an office out there,
SVB, WTF?
yeah, you having an office out there, and you're obviously representing people out there, and have for quite a while. Did that have any direct effect on you, or direct effect on clients, or?
Yes. Yeah. No, we lost a lot of productivity on Thursday, Friday last week, sort of holding hands and dealing with people and calling people and calling DC and calling the FDIC and asking, like, okay, guys, what's going to happen here? Because, you know, I'm not a fan of too big to fail, okay? But I am a fan of making sure that our economy doesn't collapse due to an irrational panic. And the fact that the Biden administration and Janet Yellen stood up and said the depositors in this bank will be made whole, and if you put your money in this bank, you'll get it back, I think was absolutely the right decision. And the fact that my world was a little torn apart Thursday, Friday last week until about Sunday midday when that announcement came down and everybody breathed a sigh of relief. Because yes, I have numerous clients who hold substantial amounts of money in Silicon Valley Bank, and the thought that they were going to be deprived of most of it to the tune of the $250,000 FDIC insurance was daunting. Having said that, I do have a number of clients who are very artful with their savings, and they will only put $250,000 in a particular bank, and then they will put $250,000 in the next bank, and the next bank, and the next bank to take advantage of the FDIC insurance, so a little more careful in that regard with their savings. I mean, look, Bruce, I mean, we wouldn't be speaking realistically if we didn't call attention to the fact that all of us, our entire civilization, quite frankly, at least in a modern capitalist society like the United States, is dependent on the foundations of the banking system and the institutions that continue to sort of, make our society bubble on a daily basis, that provide the sort of steady heat under the pan that keeps us simmering. And it's the thing that happened with Silicon Valley Bank calls into sort of rarefied analysis, like what exactly is going on here, and who are the people that are making the decisions that make things happen in the world? Because one of the things we need is conservative bankers. I don't necessarily mean politically conservative. I mean bankers with very low risk tolerance. When you have people managing billions and billions of dollars of the money in a society, those people need to make decisions that are extremely low risk. And that means maintaining that 80% of capital on hand and not investing in, because there was nobody on the planet who didn't think that interest rates were going to go up when Silicon Valley Bank bought those bonds. I mean, I'm sorry that they knew that was going to look like crap on their balance sheet within a few months. Even though those bonds were still worth at least what they paid for them, the fact that they couldn't sell them for that at the time, dropped their value on the balance sheet and made the bank look like it was effectively underwater. Because that's the way we do accounting. I guess my point is, I'm all about the wild, wild west. I'm all about taking risks and taking chances with money that you can afford to lose. That's one of the things we do representing startup companies, is we make sure that the investors who are investing in those companies sign documents that say that I understand this is risky and I can bear the loss. I am an accredited investor. I'm a wealthy individual. And if I lose this money, I will not be on the street. So that's fine in the in the venture transaction, but not in savings in the bank. Okay, when you put your money in the bank, you shouldn't have to sign a document that says, "I understand I may lose everything here." That's not why we go to the bank. Okay, so
No, it's not.
Unfortunately, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, thank God. At first, I heard Janet a statement from Janet Yellen saying, we're not covering anybody on this, right? We're not doing anything about this.
Well, honestly, I think she was talking about the shareholders of the bank at that time. I think she was saying if you were boneheaded enough to believe these jokers running this show that they were going to make you money, and now they have failed, I'm sorry. You are the high net worth individual that has that can risk the loss, and we're not going to pay you back. But your innocent depositors, your people who came to you as a customer and said, "Please, here, take my $1 million and hold it for me," we're going to bail those people out. And I think that was the right decision.
It was interesting. There was a poll on LinkedIn, one of the fintech guys, and the poll came out to be mismanagement from the bank itself, right? That was the cause of the failure, according to the poll, right? And I kind of think, that's kind of like where the blame lays, but we also have to look at, how the interest rate hikes also affected that.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Look, but I got to say this, though. I started a law firm. I started CoreX Legal last April. I'm coming up on my first anniversary. Our law firm was predicated on a thriving crypto market, a thriving capital transactions market, and unfortunately, crypto has been dead for several months now. Capital markets have been popping up blood. And so that's obviously affected the fortunes of my law firm just by, essentially. But who am I going to blame for that? Am I going to blame Janet Yellen? Am I going to blame the Federal Reserve? Am I going to blame fractional banking? Am I going to blame the investors? No. I mean, it's just, heavy is the head that wears the crown, Bruce. I mean, if the guys running Silicon Valley Bank, as I say, we want our bankers to be ultra conservative. We want them to look into their crystal ball, see what the future is going to look like, and not make risky decisions that are banking, if you will, on slim possibilities. Silicon Valley Bank, even though it's in Silicon Valley, which is known for its Wild West and its risk-taking attitude, it is nonetheless a bank, or was, and it needed to have acted like one. And I don't mean to indict the folks who made the decisions that they made. I'm sure they thought they were doing the right thing at the time. But this is one of those instances where we want grumpy old people who don't see, who get the kids off my lawn and shake my fist and yell at a cloud because we don't care about your fancy new chat GPT and we don't care about your iPhones and we want to invest in fundamentals and we want to keep 80% of our money in the bank and we want to make sure we run this thing in a way that can withstand an economic downturn and high interest rates and whatever else the world's going to throw at us. That's the job of a banker, quite frankly. They are and should be among the most conservative, fiscally conservative members of our capitalist society. And without that, the bastions of the whole economy will crumble. And we don't want the government having to come in and clean up that mess because eventually it hits us all taxpayers in the hip pocket, and that's no fun either. So that's my, listen, as you know, Bruce, I'm a pretty whimsical fellow. I relaxed about most things. I'm OCD about the practice of law. I'm OCD about contract language and grammar and commas and all the things that are the tools of my trade. And that's one more thing that I think I'm not particularly relaxed about. It's the way bankers behave. Because for God's sakes, if I take my life savings and I put them in the bank, I expect it to be there. I expect it to be treated with tender, loving care and not abused and put at risk. So.
Yeah, I saw an article, and I even posted this morning about Becker, the CEO, right? They're already making him out to be the villain. Oh, now he's at his $3.1 million condo in Hawaii. He's been seen paddling around on the streets in flip-flop sunglasses and a Hawaiian shirt, right?
Well, so that's what happens, though. That's what happens. I mean, when the minute what you're doing turns out to be a bad deal, there's going to be all the scrutiny. They're going to look at everything you've ever done. People are going to crawl out of the woodwork to testify against you. The rats are going to dive off the sinking ship as fast as they can. I mean, it's unfortunately one of the things we do to people in the society who make a mistake of making a mistake. My heart goes out to the people who were running Silicon Valley Bank during this crisis. It couldn't have been an easy weekend for them, and I'm glad we're not seeing worse results. So I hope everyone gets through it, and people who make mistakes ought to pay for them, quite frankly. But hopefully everything's going to settle down, and we don't see a cascade of bank failures through society, through civilization, at least in the United States, anytime soon. I understand there's been one or two overseas in the past few days, and that's a little scary. In many ways, this is a garbage cleaning exercise. To the extent there are poorly run, high-risk banks out there, they probably ought to be weeded out so that proper controls in the rest of the banks can become the norm, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe they need to re-go after the stress test like they did after WAMU collapsed in 2008, and they started stress testing all the banks,
Yeah, so this comes down to a fundamental argument that you can have with people in the world today, which kind of comes down to a big government versus small government. And, the concept of big government is not attractive to anybody. Like, oh, these are just more of my tax dollars going to, fund bureaucrats who are doing stupid shit and wasting it, pardon my Shakespeare. I think at some point when you look at things like this happening, when you look at little volcanoes erupting, in society, you get to a point where you're like, okay, we need people. We need someone to go in, someone who knows how to do this, somebody who gets math, who can run the spreadsheet, go into the bank, and do the stress test, and run the scenarios, and say, for God's sakes, what happens if 50% of your depositors come pull their funds? What happens then? And run that process and see if it's, see if it's a pulmonary artery that's exploding and it's going to kill the entire system, or if we can withstand it. So this is one of those instances where we want some regulation, Bruce. We really do. We need some experts in securities and finance and banking to be able to come into a situation like this and look at it and say, no, you broke it. You got to stop doing it that way. We're going to fine you if you don't fix it. Maybe even send you to jail. You're going to need a perp walk, handcuffs, and hoodie over the head. And nobody wants that. So this is one of those areas like roads and fire people and police people and the whole thing where we kind of like the government to do its job, frankly.
So, Ted and I discussed the failure last Sunday on our show, right? And I said right at the end, I said, the government's going to have to do something here so the sentiment, that's in the public sentiment isn't, we're going to hell in a handbasket, right? And I admire the fact that they stepped in and stepped up and America's quickly turning into kind of a third world economy as it is, right? The quality of life in America for the bottom of the pyramid in America, right, is not that great, right? And especially with inflation and everything right now. And, I think they did the right thing by stepping up and, kind of saving the banking system is in my mind what they did, right? And making it whole again. I think if they hadn't capped it right there, it would have been like that Exxon pipeline thing that, burst in the middle of the ocean and just kept spewing for months at a time, right? Yeah,
but British Petroleum, BP, yeah.
So moving on from that, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Moving on from that, a while back, around the time of the startup bus, and you're being pretty humble. You're not talking about the fact that you funded startup bus, and you do a lot in the Tampa Bay area, and I believe you're on the board of Tampa Bay Wave also, aren't you? I'm
not on the board of Tampa Bay Wave. No, I'm a huge well-wisher. I'm a mentor at Tampa Bay Wave. I do have a seat on the board of advisors of the University of Tampa Entrepreneurship Program. Which I'm very proud and honored to seat, and I'm honored and proud to hold. But Bruce, I was on about 1 million boards about 10 years ago. I was on TBTF and MOSI, the Museum of Science and Industry. I was on I was teaching classes and a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm happy to say that my practice got so busy that I just had to withdraw from a lot of that. So the only thing I'm really doing right now is the UT Board of Entrepreneurship.
So, but around that time when we were doing the startup bus, and probably pretty much right after that, you guys were sending out a thing. I formed my last corporation using David Rose's Gust, right?
Yeah.
And Gust Launch specifically, right? And you were talking at that time about making something similar with CoreX Legal. Are you still in the process of doing that for early stage startups?
We are, as a matter of fact. In fact, we're putting together an AI-backed, an AI-powered tool to do a client on-ramping, corporate formation, governance documents, co-founder agreements, cap table management, that we've been hard at work at that for some time now. The idea being that there's a number of do-it-yourself sites on the net where you can get a lot accomplished without a lawyer. Gust in particular is a pretty good one, and we're one of the panel counsel for Gust. If you're a Gust user and you need a lawyer, we're one of the firms that will show up for you to talk to. Interestingly enough, I used to be a law partner with one of the gentlemen who participated in the formation of many of Gust's form documents, and so every now and then when I read a Gust document, I can see my own work from the late 90s. Because you know what I'm saying. You see a sentence or a paragraph, and I wrote that. That's the way I say things. And so it's not. We have a long connection with some of the fundamentals of Gust in particular, but there's a bunch out there. There's Stripe and there's Trademark. We'll do corporate formations, of course, LegalZoom, that aren't really practicing law, but they're kind of helping you do stuff that you might ordinarily call a lawyer for. And we have a keen interest in potentially rolling those sites up and combining them into one big mega entity that knows real well with a nice AI component how to handle the immediate needs of somebody who wants to start a company and put together all the documents associated with that. That's not to say that we can just pull form contracts from the shelf and they're going to work for all purposes, because you know me, Bruce. I've never met a contract that I haven't wanted to cover with red ink the moment I read it. Even some that I've written in the past. So each situation is unique, and that's really where the AI comes in, because anyone can put up a site that will say, yeah, we'll do your Delaware formation, and we'll give you the bylaws, and we'll give you the certificate of incorporation. And, oh, by the way, here's a document that issues stock to your co-founders. That's fine. They can make it rain and just pull those documents off the shelf. But if we put a little AI secret sauce in there that kind of asks some questions, like, hey, who are your co-founders? And, are they all working full-time? And does one of them potentially have a day job that they don't necessarily want to leave? And really understand the subtleties of the situation, we can produce a more robust set of documents using the AI with some lawyer attention as well that really gets the situation more finely tuned. And again, I want to reiterate that everything the lawyer does for you in your startup company on day 1, 2, 3, 30, 60, 90 for the first year, everything your lawyer does for you needs to be focused on what your buyer is going to want to see when it comes time for M&A, okay? Because everything we're doing here is just building the document vault, building the asset base, building the intellectual property portfolio, building the practices, processes, procedures that get you to the point where when a buyer looks at you and says, oh, you're making a few $1 million a year, let's throw a check at you, let's do the due diligence, and the lawyers go, yep, it's all there, check, 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 looks good. That's when we earn our money right there, is when we've prepared you for, because chances are if you're getting bought nowadays, you're getting bought by a big old private equity-backed company, and those guys don't hire the Girl Scouts, I'm afraid to say. They hire big law firms, and my associates and I have been up against, on the sell side, we've been up against big law firm, 12, 15 lawyers coming at us on the buyer side, looking for tax and ERISA and environmental and intellectual property and all the other things, and some of them are even different time zones and all the great things. And, private equity is spending millions of dollars to buy your company, and they got big old law firm on their side. But you've got us at CoreX Legal on your side. we're here to make sure that big law don't swamp you, and that you get a deal done that makes sense for you. We've been down that road many times. We know how to navigate it. So that's a lot.
I don't know how much time you have today, but while we're talking about AI, recently I've seen, and you've seen, I'm sure, 2 or 3, 4 news stories about people that are now using ChatGPT and other AIs to kind of be their lawyer. What do you think about that, Brent?
Yeah, I got a lot to say about that, Bruce. As I say, I've been practicing law for 29 years, but before that, I was a computer scientist, and I was a nerdy one. I don't mind telling you. And I actually wrote some AI in Lisp back in the day.
Wow.
And I was fortunate enough to attend MIT as a student at the Media Laboratory at MIT, and I was taught AI by one of its inventors, Marvin Minsky, actually. And so AI and I go way back, and I have a long and very fully mutually respectful history with AI. And my entire life, and I'm 55 years old, 56 years old, fully functional AI has been not 5 to 10 years away for the past 50 years. Like, oh, it's coming, it's right around the corner. And then AI beat a grandmaster in chess, and we said, well, chess, and we said, well, that's not AI, that's just brute force computing. And then AI beat a grandmaster in Go, and we said, well, that's not AI, that's just brute force computing. And then AI won on Jeopardy, and we said, well, that's not really intelligent, that's just parlor tricks. And now we have ChatGPT and GPT-4, and we have generative AI, and we have these modules that are now landing and doing language modeling in a way that seems to us to be relatively close to what we've always thought of as general purpose AI. In fact, it is more or less glorified autocomplete. It's language modeling, it's predictive modeling, it's taking a known corpus of information and making predictions about what happens next, which is good. Don't get me wrong, it's very effective. But what I'm not worried about is I'm not worried about sentience. I'm not worried about the dystopian Terminator, AI going to rise up and kill us all kind of thing. I'm not worried about them sort of taking over the 3D printers and self-replicating and building robots and shooting us all. I don't think that's going to happen. What I'm worried about right now, because it is real, AI is now very real, and it is capable of doing stuff that we have only thought throughout history as humans could do, and that is a quantum leap. That is a watershed moment in the history of humanity. The fact that we can now offload thinking and reasoning to the AI, which can do it orders of magnitude faster than we can and reach more and more conclusions way faster than we can. And again, this goes back to chess, okay? I mean, the humans who are good at chess are really, really good at chess, and their brain is fully committed to playing that game. And they might think of it as intuition. They might think of it as raw intelligence. I don't know. But the fact is, it's all the result of the 5-pound meat computer right behind their face, cranking and cranking, and coming up with the right result. And I'm sorry, but the AI just does that better. And it's going to do law better. And it's going to do other things better. It's going to drive cars better. And I know it's failing from time to time now, but I guarantee you AI-driven cars are going to be better at driving than humans in about 5 minutes. And so who's out of a job? Commercial truckers, taxis. I mean, anybody who's currently making their living driving a vehicle, I'm sorry, you're going to be replaced by an AI robot in the future. People say, well, what about human intuition and human creativity? I can't, just let me show you what I got from my generative AI yesterday. I mean, it's a beautiful painting that I'd be proud to hang on my wall. And the fact that a human didn't paint it could be relevant to me because the AI hasn't been through the trials and tribulations and pains. All right, so I guess where I'm going here, in the first phase of my answer, and I have two phases, by the way. The first phase is this is a watershed moment for humanity, and we need to envision a civilization where nobody has a job. Because all of the jobs, all of them, I don't care if they're just knowledge workers or they're knowledge plus some kind of physical activity, or they're picking cotton. Okay, that those jobs are going to be replaced by AIs or AI-powered robots 5 minutes from now, and we need to plan for that because there's nothing left for us to do that the AI can't do better. With respect to intellectual property, there's a really funny situation associated with generative AI, because what generative AI does, it goes out and it reads everything and it looks at everything. And then it produces some new stuff. And here's the thing. If I look at your painting and I put it on the photocopier and I make a photocopy, well, that's clearly a copyright infringement, and you can sue me and you can win. But if I look at your painting and then I go over to the outside of the room and I paint a painting that is substantially similar to your painting, that is also a copyright infringement, okay? Even though I didn't make a direct copy or a digital copy, the fact that I had access to your copy, to your original, and I produced a copy that's substantially similar, also an actionable copyright infringement for which you can sue me and you can win. So these generative AI programs have gone out and they've looked at everything. They've looked at all the stuff. They've looked at all the paintings and all the art and all the visual works, and maybe they've been warned off from the adult content or stuff that they didn't want in the corpus, right? But for the most part, the AI has had access to everything, and then they go and produce a bunch of results, many of which are in fact substantially similar to some or more of the originals, and so you have access plus substantial similarity, which we've already decided is a copyright infringement. So it's possible that all of the generative AI, whether they're producing software or art or literature, audiovisual works, what have you, is committing a copyright infringement on the grand scale. And as I've said many times, can you imagine the size of the brick that the average federal judge will shirk when they realize that what was copied was everything, was all the things were copied, and here it is now in the generative AI results. So when you use AI to create generative AI to create copy or art or software, you are potentially committing a copyright infringement. And they're not going to sue the AI, they're going to sue you because you're the one who's using it, publishing it, and basically committing the infringement. Other side of the coin, and this is my final point, if you use an AI to create something, whether it's a picture or software or audiovisual work or literature, you don't own it. It cannot be copyrighted because AI is not a human, and only humans can be authors under the copyright law. So everything that's created by generative AI is unownable and is in the public domain by definition because the AI can't be the author. Now, if you take something that comes out of an AI and you massage it and you layer it and you sew some threads into it and you do your thing and you transform it into a new work, congratulations, you've probably created something new that is copyrightable and not an infringement of an existing work. You've created something new. But until you get to that point, everything that your generative AI spits out is not owned by you. It's not owned by anybody. It's certainly not owned by the AI because the AI is not human. And only humans can own copyrights. Well, humans and companies. But the fact is the AI cannot be an author. It's like if your dog steps on your camera and takes a cute picture, I'm sorry, that's in the public domain. Your dog is not the owner, your dog is not the author, and neither are you just because you own the camera. The photograph, by definition, has no author because it wasn't authored by a human. Same with AI. So, in summary, if you create stuff with generative AI, you don't own it, and if you publish it, I can copy it and use it all day long, but you can also be sued for it because it's potentially infringing of everything that came before you. Ta-da! Have a nice day.
Beautiful, beautiful. I just saw where Reid Hoffman had ChatGPT-4 author a book, and he released it on the internet for free. 400 some odd pages about AI. I forget the name of it. I posted it the other day. The founder of LinkedIn, I'm sure you know him, Reid Hoffman, right?
It's funny because there was an episode of South Park, the well-known, venerable animated series that was broadcast last week, and the author credits at the end of the show were Trey Parker and ChatGPT. It was an episode about ChatGPT, and apparently ChatGPT did some of the writing of the script at some point. So, again, unfortunately, it's a risk because it's not ownable. So you got to be careful.
So I don't want to take up a bunch of your time. I know it's Friday afternoon. I know you're probably sewing up some stuff going into the weekend. Thank God we're not going. I'm sorry?
It's St. Patty's Day, Bruce. It's St. Patty's Day for God's sakes.
Oh, I didn't bring my Guinness. I only have iced tea. I'm sorry, sir. I only have iced tea. No Guinness,
okay. Yeah, Jameson.
Yeah, Jameson. That would be. My friend Tommy on the beach would agree with you there. He's a big fan of Jamie's. One thing before we go out, I've got to interject my commercial. Folks, Ted and I are going to have passes for the FinTech meetup up in Las Vegas this next week. It actually starts Sunday night, Sunday afternoon. I'm looking for a sponsor to get me there and help me get on the other side and give this pay interviews an exponential boost. Essentially, what's going to happen is both Ted and I will set up a rig there, and we'll both be doing interviews, and then we're both be going to play the videos on each other's YouTube channels and other social media properties. So I'm looking for a sponsor to get me out there, folks, and anybody that can help with that. I'm getting down to the wire. If I can't go, I can't go, but I'd really love to go. I think it would give this pay interviews, one, the opportunity to interview a lot of the luminaries going to FinTech meetup, and this is the guy that started Money 2020 and Shop Talk and sold TXVia to Google for $300 million. Same guy. 3 successful exits. You don't get that very often. So I'm looking for that. But before we close out, Brent, I want you to tell everybody where they can find Brent. Why they should come to you and how you can help them and all that other good stuff.
Sure. Thanks, Bruce. First of all, I would like to advocate for all of those listening that if you can make it rain for Bruce and kick him a couple $100 here and there, it's not terribly expensive to get to Las Vegas, but you got to eat when you're there. So I highly recommend everybody get on board that train because this guy's got it going on. He knows how to do this kind of thing. He knows how to do this interview. He knows how to produce cogen content that we all like. This interview perhaps being the exception. Yeah, man. So I'm at CoreX Legal. You can find me at BCJB. That's Bravo Charlie Juliet Bravo at CoreX Legal. CoreX Legal.com. It's the best way to reach me by far. If you really want to get in touch with me, you can call me at 813-508-5042. I don't always pick up when I don't recognize the number. But wherever you reach me, I will try very hard to return your call within 24 hours or your email and get you on my calendar, and we can talk about what your legal issues may be. If I can't help you, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. And if I'm not the right lawyer for you, I will find one that is. I consider it every lawyer's duty to the public to assist in the search for the right lawyer. And so if you come to me and you need something that I can't handle, maybe it's criminal defense, maybe it's, as I say, immigration or something like that, I consider it part of my job to help you find someone who can help you. The law, as I say, I came from a deeply geeky background, Bruce, and I was really unaware of the function that the lawyers provide in society. But there was a time in human history where if you wanted to get something done, you had to go to the throne room and talk to the crown, right? You had to literally talk to the king and say, I'd like to cut down these trees on my property, please, because they're causing too much shade and interfering with my garden. And that wasn't easy to do, and the people who got you there were the sort of aristocracy, right? The dukes and the lords and the people who, I'm not saying it was a fair way to run the world, but they were the folks who could sign your ticket into the throne room or even appear on your behalf. And today, the lawyers serve that function. I mean, interfacing with the state is complicated and shot through with bureaucratic craziness. The websites are 20 years old, whether you're talking about the United States Patent and Trademark Office or the Secretary of State in Delaware. And even once you get there, it's Byzantine and difficult, and you need people who know that plumbing and can help navigate it. for you. And that's our job today, frankly, as lawyers, is you come to us and we do the stuff for you that it's just too tedious to figure out how to do on your own. And of course, I mean, that includes if you have a dispute, if somebody has breached a contract or took your money and didn't provide the service or whatever it is, the only way to resolve that kind of dispute legally is to get in front of a judge. And again, it's not rocket science, but it is something that needs to be learned and practiced over a period of years, and we're the people who do that for you. So we're here for you, and we're here to help you. And at CoreX Legal, we try very hard to do that at the right price. I'm not saying we give away legal services for free. We certainly don't. But we do try to work on a fixed fee basis so that you're not paying us by the hour. If you send us a job to do, we pitch a fee, and we do the work until you're happy and you never see another invoice. And if we like you, if we really like you, and you're a hot startup company, we might work for equity, or we might defer the payment of legal fees in exchange for a little piece of equity or something like that. So we try real hard to make sure that the general public has access to the law and can get the things done that they need to do. We consider that our sort of sacred duty. So that's about it.
That's great, Brent. Thank you very much for being the first one of one on hashtag pay interviews. It was really insightful. I did not know these things about you at all. I didn't know about MIT. I didn't know about your computer science degree, but it totally makes sense now in talking to you. And thanks for some insightful questions and answers here. I know a lot more about Brent Britton today, and hopefully everybody else does too, and hopefully this will bring you some more clients in the future. But thanks very much for sitting in on the interview today, and look forward to interacting with you in the future, and seeing you around at the events as I continue to grow pay.
Right. Yes, sir, man. Feeling is mutual. Best of luck to you. I hope you enjoy every success.
Thank you.
All right.